All right, I want to thank Dr. Hess and Dr. Turner for joining us here. They have both been instrumental in clinical oils based on several factors that they have experienced with clinical oil usage in their own life and in their practices. And so we wanted to just talk with them and talk through a little bit about how clinical oils came about, some of the results that they've seen in their clinics, and really why is this important, especially for chiropractors? Why is this important for chiropractors to have a resource to empower their patients and to educate them in a toxin-free environment? So just to get started, I want to give a little background on where clinical oils came from and kind of the struggle that we found as clinicians. And I'm sure you can relate to this. So what we found is about 4 years ago, I really started to get into essential oils and started to see some of the benefits that they had for my family in our personal life. And I started making some recommendations to patients. But with our practice and how our practice style is set up, it's really hard to have this other thing that we're adding on that doesn't seamlessly integrate into everything that we do. And so with that, my wife and I are really focused on, especially early on when we were opening our practice, we were really focused on creating systems that are seamless and smooth so that we could see more people, we could affect more people, we could change more people's lives. And so we kept hitting barrier after barrier, not finding any resources for us. And as we started to talk to other clinicians, talked to Dr. Hess, talked to Dr. Turner, they've experienced the same things. Am I right, guys? I'm sure you saw that there was a lack of science-based, chiropractic, congruent resources for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And I think that's one of the hardest parts is when you're a clinician, you want to have that quality time with a patient and make sure that when they're with you, you have it as efficient as possible so that you're impacting them, to the greatest extent without necessarily, going in different directions, not having a point, exactly how you're going to impact their lives. And a lot of times when a patient's in the office and they come into your room, you can end up taking the time to make sure that you're taking care of them and you're discussing different things. And you don't really get down to the point of having the right tools to be able to utilize in that setting specifically. And that's where essential oils, I found, with the right application and the right support, it just really did fit in seamless with this system that we have.
And the one thing about that is I think that it's so critically important that as clinicians, we're obviously seeking out the evidence-based approaches to what we are providing. And there's so many opinions out there about, for example, essential oils, and everybody has an opinion on it, and this works for that, this works for that. Well, how do we know? And what does the research really have to say about that? Because after all, our patients are entrusting to us arguably their greatest asset, their health, and we have to be responding to that trust that they've instilled in us by giving them what the evidence is saying is true and effective.
Yeah, I would say my path really started from the evidence that we found personally of using them. And what made it really hard for me was taking that, here's how I experienced it, and how do we make that reproducible with all of my patients? And that's where it's phenomenal, the research that is coming out on essential oils. And not just, a lot of times we hear the word essential oil and we kind of think of it as a singular concept, but really essential oils are so broad and the number of essential oils are so vast that they have such specific ability to work in different areas. So we'll talk about that in just a second, but what I want to do is I want to talk and ask each one of you, because we all have a little bit of a different practice style. So my practice style, I work with primarily sports performance. I work with a lot of athletes. I'm a football coach. I played college basketball for a short period of time. I guess I won't say I played. I more rode the bench, but I was on the team, so that's all that matters, right? You got to have a practice squad sometime. But just my whole life has really revolved around athletics and caring for athletes, working with triathletes, working with CrossFitters. And I know some of you work with athletes as well, but our practice is primarily set up more as a functional rehab clinic with doing a lot of tissue work, doing a lot of adjusting for sports performance and functional assessments that way. So I never really saw essential oils as something that would fit into that type of practice. That's for somebody who's a nutritional practice. I don't really work with a lot of biochemical issues. I know that they exist. I know my patients all have them, but that's not really something I deal with. I'm going to work on referring those out to another practitioner that has maybe a little bit more experience with that. And that's when part of it was I actually reached out to you, Dr. Kevin, and we started talking a little bit more on just essential oils and seeing how that has such a huge impact on the biochemical, on the molecular and cellular level, and how that can help with athletic performance. And so that's really where I started leaning on you a little bit more when we started looking at expanding our practice without needing to add on a whole new practice style. And that's what was wonderful for me. So I know you work a lot with a lot of functional medicine. You work a lot on the cellular toxin detoxes, nutritional aspects. So if you want to go ahead and fill us in on kind of your style of practice.
Yeah, so similar to you, Dr. Joe, I have a large sports base in my practice as well, of CrossFitters and other Olympic lifters, things of that nature. But in conjunction with that, the other kind of half of my practice is a lot of functional nutrition, functional medicine-based approach to wellness care with patients and helping people restore their bodies from various chronic illnesses that they might be struggling and battling with. And, clinically, I've seen essential oils play a very interesting role in helping certain patients with certain conditions at times, whether it's getting off of certain medications and even expediting healing times for both physical and mental conditions. Just a couple kind of quick examples. I do a lot of soft tissue work as well, whether that's various myofascial release or instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization, or Graston would kind of be kind of the buzz name that a lot of people know about, the brand. And I'll utilize Deep Blue oftentimes along with the Graston cream for various soft tissue injuries, or even if I'm just using my hands for myofascial release. And I've just found that whether it's that or Deep Blue or frankincense or maybe even lavender, depending on what specific injury might be going on in the soft tissue, that has really helped expedite the healing. And patients have always responded that, with that, they can tell a difference when an oil is added in with that versus just applying that modality. The modality stands by itself, but the oils expedite healing. And we're in the business of helping people get better as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And frankly, it makes us look better as clinicians when we can deliver results that much more efficiently to the patient. Other patients, I've had patients be able to get off anxiety medications by adding lavender right into their routine. doTERRA does offer a whole emotional side of their blends, which can also be very effective for those kinds of anxiety, depression, other psychological challenges that way. But even when it comes to digestive things, I'll finish this one up real quick. I've had patients with SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is an extremely challenging and frankly very not well understood condition for how to effectively treat it, both pharmaceutically and naturally. But I've seen some essential oils, when added in with various protocols, absolutely help some people faster than when they were not added in with a very challenging condition such as that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have another question for you. I'm going to ask in just a second, but talking a lot about the emotional aspect of health, that's something a lot of times as clinicians we don't really pursue. But it has such a huge impact on our stress levels, on our families, and from parents to children, and it just has such a huge impact on even how we can sleep and find that rest that allows us to live a happy, healthy, active lifestyle. And I know, Dr. Hess, you work a lot with really a broad spectrum, a lot of high volume, working with a lot of families, and in Southern California, obviously, you've got a lot more higher level athletes than the Midwest does. But tell us a little bit about your practice and even some of the emotional component that you see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that right when you touched base on the research, I think that's what really brought me in. I've heard a lot about essential oils. I've heard, a lot of people using them, stay-at-home moms making a little second business out of it, whatever it may be. I didn't really think much of it, to be honest. But it's a big buzz, kind of what seemingly is a big fad out in the community these days. And so I didn't really pay much attention to it until, we started talking, you guys and myself, and you guys started showing me some of the research. And when I started seeing some of the research on specific different things that I really didn't want to touch in the clinic as much, I'm as close to a straight chiropractor, as they come. I love my adjustment. I mean, my patients don't spend a lot of time with me, but I don't need a lot of time with them because the adjustment is the powerful tool that I use. So I do see quite a few patients that come through my doors on a daily basis. I don't need to throw a number out there, but I don't need to spend a lot of time with my patients. But with the time that I have with them, my patients say that I really impact them. And that's my whole goal, is when you're with me, with that time that I have with you, you have my full undivided attention. But it also means that if I'm going to recommend something to you, or if I'm going to apply something to my patient, I want to make sure that it is backed by research, that it's evidence-based. And when I started seeing the research that came out on essential oils for particular things, I had to get into it, because I felt like I was denying my patients the respect that I would ignore something because I wanted them in and out of my doors faster. I needed to start integrating this, because I think that would up-level it in a huge way. And talking about some of those emotional things, there's been numerous times where I've had a patient come in where they've lost their sibling, or they've lost their parent. Just the other day, I had a patient lose their father, and a patient lose their mother within the same week. And I tell you, as soon as that door closes and those patients, they look at you, and you can see they have a huge loss in their lives. And being able to give them a hug, tell them that everything's going to be okay, and you connect with them emotionally, and you make sure that you're there for support. And at the same time, putting a little bit of lavender on their neck and behind their ears to be able to help soothe them, or a little past tense and that tension blend. And it seems kind of cheesy, but in a way, it makes a huge difference, because I'm with that patient for a small amount of time, and I may impact them by giving them a hug and telling them everything's going to be okay. But when they leave there and that tension blends on them, and they're smelling that, and they have a great adjustment that accompanies that, and that oil is supporting them in an emotional way that impacts them for a long time post-adjustment. And they come back and they start raving about how they got through their day, and they felt that oil really helped them. And that's when my eyes said, this is not some little thing. Like, this is impacting people in a big way. And I had to get into a little bit more. So with some of my other patients, I see some sports athletes, obviously. I see a lot of families. And with families, I see a big impact at the home front that I was not expecting to see. When patients come into my clinic, I'm all about the lifestyle. Coming to my office is not just a quick fix. It's a lifestyle. Coming to the chiropractor is a lifestyle. It's a preventative nature. It's about keeping the body keeping a good spinal hygiene, and making sure that you're functioning optimally, and that your health is at 100%, or as close to 100% as possible. So what I found in integrating these essential oils into my clinic is I was impacting these families at the home. They started changing out some of their cleaning products and reducing their toxic load in their house. They started to ask me about nutrition, and I didn't even bring it up. And these are new patients, and they started to change different things on what they were feeding their kids and what kind of, toxins they were putting in their child's mouth, and when they're talking about fevers. And they started to look to me for a little bit more authority because I had a little bit more of a broad spectrum that I was coming at them with. And it surprised me in a big way that I was able to impact these patients, their families, extended family members, that they were taking a little bit more of, an authoritative role in their families to tell, their family members that they shouldn't be eating that trashy food. They want to live this healthy lifestyle, and oils, integrating them into their family, into their home, has made a dramatic impact there as well, which I was really happy about.
And that's really what I love, Doc, that it is a way of really empowering patients to incorporate that wellness lifestyle that we are constantly preaching as chiropractors, and incorporating things that are toxin-free and directly impacting their physiological processes within their body. It's a very easy and tangible way of helping to empower the patient to make those changes for that wellness lifestyle. So
and to add to that, and we talk a lot about this, and maybe there's a lot of people that don't understand how this really applies. But when we're talking about how it changes their lifestyle, we're talking about integrating it into their diet and how essential oils can impact the gut, how essential oils can impact, and the overall the backstory on essential oils is a lot like the chiropractic philosophy, which really shocked me when I got into it a little bit more, how we have the science, philosophy, and art of chiropractic. The philosophy behind essential oils is very, very holistic. It's very organic based. It's, this is like Earth's medicine, right? They say that, dare we say medicine, but in a sense, it's got this community that's very holistic, and that holistic community empowers people to think that way. If you surround yourself by people that eat vegan or people that eat very clean, you're going to start eating cleaner. If you surround yourself by people that are working out on a daily basis, you're probably going to start working out on a daily basis, and so that same thing, when you invite them into this community and start thinking holistically with that paradigm of utilizing oils for, sleeping better, for exercising and enhancing performance in that area, multiple different facets of their area of eating and gut health and brain health and nervous system health. All of these things are incorporated into the wellness paradigm of essential oils outside of the clinic of whatever clinic you're at. So it was almost as if I was introducing them to this world, and the world was educating them on the outside just as much as I'm trying to educate the same philosophy from the inside. So it was, the paradigms were just supporting each other, and I found that was huge. It was huge in the clinic, as well as outside, impacting patients on the outside too.
Yeah, really, when you look at it, the chiropractic philosophy that's been around for 125 years-ish, something like that, really, a lot of people look at chiropractic philosophy as this pseudoscience. And really what's fascinating is a lot of things that the early chiropractic pioneers were saying that we think of as the philosophy of chiropractic is really what science is starting to come out and support and say, yeah, our body is a product of the environment around us. We exhibit health from the inside out, from how our cells express DNA expression, how our nervous system is the master control system, how it's seeing what's going on in our environment, it's adapting our body to the environment around us, for all the way from cellular and DNA expression. Like that, our nervous system is incredibly powerful, and so that's what's incredibly impactful when you look at essential oils combined with chiropractic. You can't get any better than that, because you're looking at affecting the cellular and body function, upregulating and helping to properly regulate cell function, and then you're looking at coordinating the nervous system so that it can function properly in the environment around us. So Just fascinating and incredibly powerful when you combine both essential oils and chiropractic. Just there's no better fit that I found.
Yeah, and
Now,
I think that you guys could say this too. Now, there's lots of different products that I know come knocking on my door, and a lot of people come saying, implement this, implement that. You know, I'm not going to say any brand names that are out there, but there's dozens of them, and they're constantly talking about how you need to, you know, incorporate this, and it will help your patients with this and that. And what I found, what really separated, and I've always kind of hushed that off. For multiple different reasons, because, you know, I'm mainly about the adjustment, like that's what I give. But at the same time, what I found that really attracted me towards essential oils, a lot of these other products that were out there were about the product. Like there was like a, you know, one size fits all, you know, it's a one cure all, like without this, you're nothing. You have to have this. And it's, you know, all these other products are wrong. Like it's all about this. And so what I liked about essential oils, they've been around for thousands of years. Like this isn't some new little, you know, formulated in the lab kind of thing. This is something that's been around, and it's been perfected. And it's been perfected enough now that we need to start paying attention. Research has actually controlled this enough to actually create amazing results and show some amazing research studies. And now we can finally use this. The quality of these essential oils are to the point where we can use these in a clinic in a very formidable fashion. And there's a broad spectrum, right? So it's not just a one cure-all thing. It's multiple different things that can help support the body. It's not that our body absolutely needs this, that it's lacking. A lot of different products are talking about how, you know, you have to have this because your body's lacking. It's about support. And that's that congruency too. That's really opened my eyes to integrate it into the clinic. Unlike a lot of other products that are you know, that format in which you have to sell this or, you know, this or the other, that it's just another item in the clinic that you're trying to make a little extra money, this, that, or the other. This is something that totally integrates in a way that is unlike any other product.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Kevin, I want to ask you a question because you alluded to it a little bit earlier when you were talking about one of your patient cases. It's really difficult to treat with both a medical approach or natural approach. And I know you have worked a lot with not only functional medicine in the functional medicine world for quite a while, but you've worked extensively with essential oils for almost a decade now. Yeah. And you've used several different brands. And so tell us, why is it important, the quality of oils, and which brand should we even look at? How do we even assess that? And is that even an important factor?
Yeah, I mean, that's perhaps one of the greatest questions, and it's such a huge thing that I'll try to succinctly sum up here. But let's give an analogy here. If a patient comes in and says that they're taking a multivitamin, and it happens to just be a very generic, over-the-counter, $6 for a 6-month supply sort of a product, how effective is that going to be? How bioavailable, how readily is that patient going to be able to utilize what is found within that product? Well, I think we could all probably agree that it's probably not going to be that effective of a product for the person, because that kind of age-old adage that you get what you pay for really comes into play. And so when it comes to essential oils, it's the same thing. I could go to a kind of supercenter store and find a $4 bottle of frankincense. But frankincense is a very expensive oil to source properly and refine properly. And I know that the bottles that I get are roughly $100 for 15 milliliter bottle. So,
right.
You know, you get what you pay for, and the effectiveness of that is going to make a profound difference. So you can say, I'm going to utilize oils in my clinic, but you're only going to get the results if you are utilizing a quality product. And so, you know, I have, as you mentioned, used various oils over the years, and some with better results than others, for sure. But we've settled on doTERRA in our clinic. It is seemed to provide the absolute best results from even some of the other bigger brands that you hear about oftentimes. But not only that, I think that the attention to detail that they have on their sourcing, how they source their oils, is you can't compare it to any other one, down to the farming and how they source their farms. They don't own their farms, how they are having testing done on every batch of oils, and you can check and see what that testing result showed by a separate website that they even offer to plug in a code on the bottom of every single bottle and know exactly what testing was performed on that batch. I don't know of another company that has that attention to detail. And I could keep going on and on about that, but I mean, those are a few like just huge standout things that really differentiated doTERRA from some of the other oil companies that I had utilized in the past and used to have accounts with.
Yeah.
Used to.
So yeah, used to, yeah. and that's the thing is when we are offering something to our patients, whether it's the adjustment that we give, whether it's any sort of therapies or anything that we do in our clinic, whether it's a product, our patients are, like you said earlier, our patients are looking to us to lead them to their health, not just to make a suggestion, say, well, this would be something that might be helpful for you. They're coming to us, and we have a moral obligation to give them what is best. And if we're withholding that from them, then we are not doing our due diligence as their doctor. And frankly, I believe we shouldn't even be accepting money from them for treating them as a patient.
Yeah.
Now, I want to kind of come back to what we started with at the beginning and just kind of the struggle that each one of us has found early on in developing a system that not only determining are essential oils congruent with the chiropractic philosophy, are they safe and effective in a clinical practice, but how do you make it work so that it doesn't gum up your patient flow and it doesn't become this whole separate thing and this separate entity that you add on. So I just want to just briefly touch on that, and you can learn more about that as you watch this video. But really, as we started to develop some of these systems and processes, a couple of pieces really came into play. One is really setting the stage of the clinic. How do you set the stage of the clinic so that patients want this? Really, as soon as they walk in the door, they say first impressions are your lasting impression. And so that's a big piece. And that's one of the areas that we really touch on with our coaching and with our integration is specific steps on how you can set the stage. Then we go through training and coaching, and we have resources, clinical resources for doctors that not only us, but then we also have several other experts in health and science that have helped formulate this handbook for doctors and how to apply oils safely and effectively. And then all the way from that applying to making recommendations to front desk and office flow, how do you manage the administrative side? And so we have very specific systems set up that will help with this integration. And then a lot of times you'll see a lot of products or companies or whatever kind of stop there. That we're only about the clinical integration, and as soon as a patient leaves the door, we're done. And that's not congruent with chiropractic philosophy. That's not congruent with the way any of us practice. We all want to empower our patients to have a healthy lifestyle. And so that comes to an area of education. And that's a huge piece that we have developed is safe, effective, and then understandable and applicable education that patients can use right from their home and interacting on online platforms with clinical oil staff. And so that's really the system in a nutshell that we want to touch on every area from when the patient comes in the door all the way to now they're not just using this in their lifestyle, but they're using it safely and effectively. And so that's really the big piece that we looked at with clinical oils when we started looking at how do we implement this.
I think to touch a little bit on that, when when I started trying to integrate other things into my clinic, and I don't integrate very much because it usually stops at the front door, like you're talking about. It took way too much of my time. Other specific products or different things that I thought could help with particular things that my patients were really looking for. They were looking for advice from me on and helping them in other avenues of their life. And there's a few times I went on a limb and really tried to integrate a few things in. And unfortunately, it took up a half an hour there, a half an hour there, sometimes even sitting down, and they'd be asking numerous questions. And I'd have to sit down and literally coach somebody through something for an hour. I didn't have that time. There was nothing out there, no other product out there that really integrated it into and customized it to an individual's clinic. And what I found that with clinical oils and what the resources that I had with clinical oils is that it wasn't just a product. Like, this is a product that through clinical oils, from chiropractors to physicians, knowing how a clinical system runs, knowing how much time is spent with the patient, the style, the science, the philosophy, the art behind it. When I'm with a patient and the amount of time that I spend with a patient, I can utilize those oils right then and there for that specific situation. And it's not going to add any extra time. I don't have to sit there and talk to them about the oils. I don't have to, I say, this is what I'm going to utilize today. This is what it is. This is what it's going to help you with, period. Right. And I haven't had anybody that's been, reluctant at all in the clinic. And quite honestly, next time they come in, they want more. That's been 90% of them. They either want more. The other 10% is they felt good and they said, thank you. I really appreciated when you did that last time. But in my clinic specifically, every clinic's a little bit differently, but in mine specifically, I have a couple massage therapists. I have some acupuncturists. I have, other people in my clinic, quite a few. And the massage therapists, one of my massage therapists has kind of taken the lead on that. And what I've done is really kind of empowered her to do coaching at the clinic, where she'll actually put on specific classes to educate. And I can always refer the patients to, twice a month or something like that for educational class if they want to learn more, and I can defer. So it's not necessarily that I have to sit down and chat with them about the product or this, that, or the other. I can get them into an environment in which they can learn in the office. Let's say you don't have a massage therapist or whatnot. What I also loved about the clinical oil system is the Facebook groups. The Facebook groups has been absolutely incredible because the Facebook group for the doctors, I've been able to ask questions and talk to other physicians about what are some things that they've been running into problems in their clinics and how I can apply the oils differently or more effectively, or if I have any questions about gut health or different things about that, I can always ask it in the private doctors group, as well as I can defer patients when they start purchasing the oils to the clinical oils public group, in which they can ask questions and they can get professionals to interact with them in that private Facebook group. And that's priceless, because that means it doesn't necessarily have to be me there sitting there for half an hour talking to my patients about oils, because that's not what I do. I'm a chiropractor. I'm not an essential oils guy. Right? Even though I know that they help my patients and I want to integrate it because I know it's going to impact them, I'm not an essential oils guy. I'm a chiropractor first. And also the handbook. The handbook that Clinical Oils has created has really impacted me, because in the beginning, I wasn't that knowledgeable about essential oils. And having a handbook that really gives me different ways to apply the oils in the chiropractic setting, and it goes along with the philosophy, the science, and the art of applying that essential oil and helping the patient, that handbook was absolutely priceless. So, all those things come together to really create a system that is unprecedented compared to any other product out there.
So Dr. Kevin, we're going to have to wrap it up here fairly quick, but Can you just tell us how you think that essential oils are changing the landscape of healthcare?
Well, I think, once again, real succinctly, we all know that healthcare is in a very bad place in this country, and we have some profound issues that we're facing as a country. And I think that it's really interesting, as we've alluded to, the amount of research that's being conducted, even at very prestigious hospitals, research universities, et cetera, on clinical applications of essential oils for various chronic illnesses and other autoimmune conditions, et cetera. And I think that it's going to continue to grow as a tool that is looked for as we continue to see the failure of many of our common approaches, or what have been the common approaches to various health conditions, kind of fade away. The pendulum swung so far one way, it's coming back, and many physicians, various allopathic physicians, are starting to see the value of perhaps some of these natural methods being utilized first, or being used in conjunction with some of the pharmacological treatments, because once again, expediting patient care and maximizing results. This is all one powerful way that I think that essential oils will be one tool that is used to really help create that continued pendulum shift, because it is evidence-based.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Really appreciated your insight. Everybody that's watching this, I want to thank you for sticking with us. Sometimes we can get long-winded because we're passionate about this. This is something that we've lived and breathed. We've gone through the struggles and the difficulties, just like you're going through, of how do I handle this patient? How do I approach this in a way that is safe and effective? And how can I make it so that it's seamless integration with everything that I do? So that's why we're passionate about it. We're passionate because we live in our communities and we see where our health is deteriorating as a society, where our lifespans are shortening, our functional lifespans, our quality of life, you name it, is just getting worse and worse. So that's why we're passionate about it. That's why we've put this together for you. And we want to invite you into this journey. So make sure you watch these other videos when we interview a couple of patients and we see the impact that it has had in their life and how using essential oils has empowered them. And also when we start talking to a researcher who has his PhD in molecular biology and how essential oils has radically altered his career focus. Also, if you want, you can always go to our sales page and you can reserve your spot. We're launching October 1st, and we're reserving 30 spots for the initial clinic launch. So make sure you get your spot reserved, and we will see you soon. Thank you.